Everyone is focused on Bitcoin right now, and why wouldn't you be? If you're a crypto trader or investor, obviously you're going to focus on the largest crypto asset that everything else tends to follow. However, there has been a market in the background for the last 6 months or so that really has been directing all of the price action for the crypto market. So today we're going to talk about that market, the S&P 500, and I'm going to show you some technicals that I'm watching, where I think this market could break down from and what that could mean for the crypto market. Now, if you're trading crypto, I can pretty much guarantee you if you focus more on this market, learn the technicals, it's going to make you a better trader. And likewise, if you're just investing in crypto, looking for a spot to buy it lower, then this market can help you as well. Now, before we get started, I do want to say that none of the content in this video or any video is financial advice because it is just my opinion. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's take a look at the S&P 500 on the 4-hour time frame. So here you can see that we clearly had a fake out above an ascending channel that confirmed yesterday. So if you follow me on Twitter, I mentioned this pattern a few times where we had an ascending channel here. The market broke out to the upside and then it closed right back below it yesterday. Okay, so this close right here confirmed that this up here was a fake out, okay, a false break. Now, a lot of times when you get a false break to one side of a pattern like this, in this case, a channel, you do get an extended move in the opposite direction. So in the case of the S&P 500, because we got a break to the upside, then it's likely that we eventually see a move lower. Now, obviously, as you can see, the S&P 500 is still above this channel support. Okay, so we haven't quite gotten that breakdown just yet. However, it has been weighing on this level pretty significantly this morning. So we could see some relief here, over the next 24 hours. But this level up here, right around 3,900, is going to be resistance. Now, if we see the S&P 500 close below this level, which you can even see on the hourly chart, that this market has been respecting this level on the hourly time frame. So if we were to see a close below this level here over the coming days to confirm that breakdown, then we are likely looking at the S&P 500 heading back here toward 3640, which was the recent low. Now, before we move on, I do want to say if you guys are enjoying this content, be sure to smash that like button and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon to get notifications in the future. All right, so why does this matter for Bitcoin? Well, if we take a look at the correlation here, this is Bitcoin against the S&P 500 for about the last 6 months, ever since December of last year. And what you can see here is that very clearly the two have been moving together. Okay, so every time they bottom out together. Same thing with these swing highs. And you can just see how over time, over the last 6 months or so, they have been incredibly correlated. Now, it's worth noting that it has not always been this way, because if you'll remember back here when Bitcoin had this big sell-off in the summer of last year, the S&P 500 was really just grinding higher that entire time. So why have these markets all of a sudden become more correlated? It's because anytime you get a risk-off environment, okay, where people are pulling their capital out of risk assets, moving it into cash, or even gold, then everything becomes a bit more correlated. Okay, so in risk-off environments, everything becomes correlated. By the way, gold too, in extreme risk-off scenarios, it also becomes correlated. Think about March of 2020, okay? So that's why we've seen these markets really start to move together here over the past 6 months. And it's because ever since these markets topped out back here and we started to get that risk-off move, they became very, very correlated, okay? So what we've seen here recently too, and I do want to note this, is that on the last 2 rallies from the S&P 500, what you'll notice, and I mentioned this on Twitter, but what you'll notice is Bitcoin did not follow. Okay, once again here, Bitcoin is pretty much flat compared to the S&P 500. So, compare that to back here when both of them rallied together, or even this right here. Okay, so what this is telling me right now is that the crypto market is still relatively weak. Okay, so anybody talking about a bottom, especially a macro bottom right now for the crypto market, I'm just not buying it, literally, because I do think that the crypto market is weak even when you look at it compared to the S&P 500. So let's go ahead and flip back now to just the S&P 500 chart and talk about what all of this could mean here over the coming days for both the stock market and also for the crypto market. Okay, so if this level fails over the coming days and really over the coming hours, it would confirm the breakdown. And a level that I think the S&P 500 is going to want to test over the coming weeks is going to be 3,400. And the reason for that is this was the pre-COVID high. Okay, so looking back here, this was obviously the COVID sell-off back here, and the high right before that sell-off was 3,400. Now, the reason this is going to be significant is that this obviously down here was a massive shift in policy from central banks. Okay, this is when central banks started to stimulate the economy. They started to roll out all kinds of policies to help accommodate what was happening. Okay, so I think that this is going to be a significant level for the S&P 500. And not only do I expect a decent bounce from this area once we get here, but I also think that 3,400 is going to act as a magnet over the coming weeks in the case that the market is going to want to test this region down here. Now, the reason that's a little bit problematic for Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto market is because if we look here, okay, from current levels, if we assume the S&P 500 is going to want to test 3,400, that is about 11% below the current levels of the S&P 500. And the reason that's problematic is because if you look back here, this was about a 12% drop. So pretty close to what we could be seeing here play out over the next week or two. And Bitcoin during that time, when the S&P 500 lost 12%, Bitcoin lost about 30%. Okay, so if the S&P 500 does go down and test 3,400 over the coming days and weeks, then we could very well be looking at Bitcoin lower by at least, I would say, about 20%. Now, that's obviously if past performance is indicative of future results. There's no guarantee of that, but just looking at the correlation here, I do think that if the S&P 500 were to drop another 11% before we get a more significant relief rally, we're looking at BTC down at least 20, if not 25%. Okay, so you're going to want to keep this chart in mind. Keep the S&P 500 in mind because these two are moving very closely together right now, and I think that not paying attention to what's happening in the S&P 500 in the stock market is a mistake if you are trading crypto. And again, if you're looking for a place to buy crypto for a long-term hold and you're looking for that potential bottom or at least, a local bottom to buy, I think that, looking at the S&P 500 in that 3,400 area, that probably correlates to Bitcoin around $16,000, which I talked about in yesterday's video. Okay, so I think that makes a lot of sense. Obviously no guarantees, but I do think that is probably where the market is headed here over the coming weeks. Now, could we get a more of a relief rally here before that happens? Of course, but I do think that just given the gravity of 3,400 being that pre-COVID high, I think that the S&P 500 is going to want to test it. And based on the correlation here and what we've seen, how Bitcoin reacts to these sell-offs, I do think that a Bitcoin, at least 20 to 25% lower over the coming weeks is the most likely scenario. So once again, just to wrap up, if you are trading, the SPY or, Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever, I think you're going to want to watch the S&P 500 and how it reacts to this area down here around 3,800. Okay. If this does break down, if we see a close down here, then it's likely headed down here toward 3,640, which that in and of itself is likely to push Bitcoin below that $20,000 area, because even from down here to 3,640, you're talking about over 4%. Okay, so a 4% move from the S&P 500 is probably good for at least 5 to 10% lower for Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto market. All right, so that's it for today's video. If you found it helpful, please do smash that like button. It really means a lot. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon to get notifications. And also one more thing, if you do enjoy this type of content, I do this every single day. I analyze 4 to 6 markets in the Crypto Academy members area. See the link in the description. There's a $1 for 7-day trial offer down there. So you can cancel if you don't love it. And if you do, it's just 15 bucks a month. All right, so but $1 for 7 days to get started. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed the video and I will talk to you again tomorrow.